I never thought moving in with two strangers could feel like walking into a trap I secretly wanted to spring. The first night, I tripped over the couch cushion, and his laughter-rich, teasing, unapologetically warm echoed in my ears long after I had steadied myself. His name was Ethan, the kind of guy whose eyes seemed to read the cracks in my armor before I even noticed them. The other one, Lucas, had a gentler touch. The way he rearranged the living room books or left a mug of coffee waiting for me in the morning made my chest tighten with unnameable feelings. And then there was Derek, confident and charming, always just a little too aware of my routines, watching, waiting, testing boundaries without saying a word. I told myself I would keep distance, rationalize my fluttering heart as mere adjustment anxiety. But the apartment seemed to conspire against me. Late-night kitchen trips always ended with our knees brushing, hands lingering on the fridge handle, and smirks exchanged that carried dangerous promises. One rainy evening, I found myself trapped in the living room with Ethan. He leaned casually against the doorway, rain dripping from his dark hair, and muttered something about the weather, but his eyes never left mine. I laughed nervously, shifting my weight from one foot to the other, trying to dismiss the electricity curling in my stomach. "You're ridiculous," he said, and before I could respond, he stepped closer. His hand brushed against mine, not enough to touch fully, but enough to make my pulse spike. I wanted to pull away logically, but the warmth of his body made that impossible. Lucas appeared then, carrying a tray of cookies he had baked, unaware of the tension radiating from the other side of the room. "Hope you like chocolate chip," he said with a shy grin, setting the tray down and retreating to the couch to pretend he was busy with a book. But I saw him glance over, eyes soft, longing, and my heart twisted into knots I didn't want to untangle. Derek entered the scene next, tossing his keys onto the counter with a casual arrogance, flashing a smile that made my stomach flip in ways I didn't want to admit. 3 people, 3 sets of intentions I couldn't decode, all orbiting me like planets in a storm I couldn't escape. I sank into the couch, trying to convince myself that the fluttering in my chest was only hunger or the rain dripping through the leaky window. But the truth was staring me in the face. Ethan, leaning just a little too close, Lucas glancing from his book with subtle admiration, and Derek. Well, Derek made it impossible to feel normal. Days bled into nights, and each routine became a battlefield of glances, half-smiles, and accidental touches. I could feel Ethan's presence even when he wasn't in the room, a magnetic pull that had me watching every movement. Lucas's quiet attentions were like tiny, persistent flames, warming the parts of me I had buried. Derek's teasing comments were daggers wrapped in silk, cutting deeper than I wanted to admit. And then it happened one ordinary evening that wasn't ordinary at all. I was fumbling with the microwave, trying to reheat a cup of coffee, when Ethan suddenly appeared behind me. The air shifted, electric, and he whispered, "Mind if I help?" Before I could answer, his hand covered mine. Not aggressively, not demanding, just a soft touch that made my chest seize. I turned, eyes wide, and found his gaze locked on mine, unwavering. Then, impossibly, he leaned in. The kiss was sudden and soft. A question and an answer rolled into one. My body froze, my mind screamed. And yet, I didn't pull away. Every boundary I had constructed, every rational excuse for distance, dissolved in the warmth of that unexpected kiss. We parted briefly, breathless, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't dared imagine. A vulnerability, a longing that mirrored my own. My lips tingled, my heart thundering in a rhythm I couldn't control. Lucas watched from across the room, expression unreadable, and Derek, standing near the window, seemed both amused and frustrated. An unreadable puzzle piece in this sudden, chaotic moment. For the first time, I understood the invisible threads connecting us, the silent confessions and glances, touches, and stolen moments. It wasn't just Ethan, it was the 3 of them, the delicate, messy, thrilling triangle of emotions that defied all the rules I thought I had to follow. I wanted to retreat, run, hide behind the carefully maintained walls of logic. But my body betrayed me, inching closer to Ethan, feeling the heat of his hand against mine. The steady rhythm of his heartbeat pressed against my chest. And in that moment, I realized something I had been trying to ignore. Desire didn't care about boundaries, about distance, about societal expectations. Desire only knew the truth of what we felt. Ethan smiled, a slow, knowing curve of his lips that made my knees weak. "You've been resisting," he murmured. "But not really, have you?" I couldn't answer. Words failed, drowned in the rush of sensations, the electricity crackling between us. Lucas shifted, settling more comfortably on the couch, eyes soft yet intense, silently acknowledging the new reality. Derek let out a low laugh, shaking his head as if he had been expecting this, his smirk both infuriating and oddly reassuring. The rain outside softened, pattering against the windows like a delicate applause, a soundtrack to the awakening of something I didn't know I was ready to feel. The apartment, once a place of mere shelter, became a stage for a drama I hadn't anticipated but now craved. And in that wide, sun-drenched living room, among mugs of forgotten coffee and crumbs of chocolate chip cookies, something fragile and extraordinary began to bloom. A story of attraction, laughter, longing, and undeniable chemistry that would test boundaries, break expectations, and ultimately redefine what it meant to live, love, and surrender to the chaos of the heart. Days passed in a blur of tension and stolen moments. The kiss with Ethan had shattered my defenses, but it didn't answer the unspoken questions hovering over our shared apartment. How did Lucas feel? And Derek, was his teasing just a mask for something deeper? Ethan became relentless in subtle ways. Every brush of hands, every lingering look, every accidental touch seemed designed to unsettle me and yet reassure me all at once. I found myself drawn to him, like a moth circling a flame, unable and unwilling to resist. And each time, the guilt of the boundaries I had tried to uphold gnawed at me, whispering that I was treading dangerous ground. Lucas's attention was quieter, but no less intense. He left little notes, tucked in my books or on the kitchen counter, with messages that made my chest tighten. "You looked beautiful today. Did you eat enough?" Every note felt like a confession, tender and patient, like a hand waiting to hold mine if I finally let it. Derek, meanwhile, seemed to oscillate between indifference and sharp, pointed gestures of affection. A hand on my shoulder, a casual arm brush in the hallway, a teasing smile when I caught him watching me. It was maddening, confusing, and entirely magnetic. Each day felt like walking a tightrope over a canyon of emotions, and I couldn't stop smiling, couldn't stop trembling, couldn't stop wanting more. One evening, the three of them sat together in the living room, a rare moment of calm before inevitable chaos. Ethan was sprawled across the couch, casual, confident, the spark in his dark eyes fixed on me. Lucas perched on the armrest, delicate yet commanding attention in his own subtle way. Derek leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, smirking like he had anticipated the storm that had already begun. "I think we need to talk," Ethan said suddenly, voice low and serious. His casual confidence was gone, replaced by an earnestness that made my stomach twist. I froze, unsure of what he meant. "I can't keep doing this," he admitted, looking between Lucas and Derek before resting his gaze on me. "Pretending nothing is happening. Pretending I don't want to kiss you again every time I see you." Lucas's soft exhale carried a weight of vulnerability I hadn't seen before. "I've tried to stay quiet," he said gently, "because I didn't want to ruin anything, but I can't hide how I feel anymore." Derek laughed, a low, teasing sound that somehow contained sincerity. "You guys are idiots," he said, shaking his head. "But yeah, I can't hide it either. I like you. All of you." I blinked, stunned. The truth of their words hit me like a wave, 3 hearts beating for me, 3 sets of desires and confessions intertwined with mine. My own feelings, once a confusing tangle, suddenly felt like a river finding its course. The room grew still, heavy with unspoken understanding, until Ethan stepped closer, bridging the distance between us. He placed a hand on my cheek, warm and steady. "We don't have to figure everything out at once," he whispered. "But I want you to know, I'm here. I want this. I want us. Lucas moved to my other side, pressing a gentle hand to my back. We're all here, he said softly. You're not alone in this. Derek leaned forward, resting his forehead against mine. No rules, no pretending, just us, however messy it gets. Couldn't breathe, not because of panic, but because my heart had finally caught up to the truth. Desire, affection, lovey, it was all here, overflowing in a way I hadn't dared hope for. I had feared being overwhelmed, but instead, I felt grounded, held in the warmth of their presence. And so we kissed. Not just Ethan, not just Lucas, not just Derek, each touch a promise, each hand a reassurance, each lingering glance a declaration of trust. The apartment, once a battleground of suppressed emotions and quiet longing, became a sanctuary of tenderness and laughter. We spent the evening exploring each other's comfort zones, learning boundaries while discovering freedoms we hadn't known we were craving. Every accidental touch, every shared joke, every whispered confession became a thread in the tapestry of our connection. The following weeks were a dance of closeness and independence. Morning coffees turned into breakfast in bed. Late-night conversations stretched until the early hours. Small adventures in the city that felt monumental because we were together. The ordinary became extraordinary through the lens of our shared affection. And despite the inevitable moments of jealousy or doubt, the bond we built was resilient. Ethan's passion, Lucas's tenderness, Derek's playful intensity, they didn't compete. They complemented each other. I realized that love didn't have to follow a straight line, didn't have to conform to a single expectation. It could bend, stretch, and twist into shapes that made the heart swell with joy instead of suffocation. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, we sat on the balcony, fingers intertwined, watching the city lights flicker on like distant stars. Ethan rested his head on my shoulder, Lucas leaned into my other side, and Derek curled his arm around my waist. For a moment, I allowed myself to simply exist in the warmth, the closeness, the undeniable magic of the life we were creating together. You know, Ethan murmured, voice soft against the hum of the city, I used to be scared of moving in here. I thought it would be chaos. I laughed, leaning into him. It is chaos, but the kind you don't want to escape from. Lucas kissed my cheek, light and tender, whispering, I never thought I'd find this, finding home in people instead of places. Derek chuckled, pressing his lips to my temple. Home feels pretty damn good. And it did. It felt like every fear, every doubt, every boundary I had ever built was melting away, leaving only the purity of connection. Love wasn't perfect, it was messy, unpredictable, and sometimes terrifying, but it was ours, and that made it perfect in its own way. From that day on, the apartment was no longer a place of silent tension or cautious distance. It was alive with laughter, conversation, affection, and unspoken promises. Each day we built memories, small yet profound, weaving our lives together with intentionality and care. Eventually, even the world outside seemed to soften around us. Friends noticed a new ease in my smile, a lightness in my step. Family slowly came to accept the unorthodox nature of my happiness. And I realized, finally, that the love we shared, three hearts entangled, yet independent, strong, and tender, was not something to hide or apologize for. It was a testament to courage, to honesty, and to the beauty of human connection. On a particularly quiet night, the three of them curled up around me on the couch, their warmth a cocoon against the chilly air outside. Ethan whispered, "Thank you for trusting us." Lucas squeezed my hand gently. "Thank you for letting us love you." Derek, ever playful, but with an unmistakable sincerity, added, "And thank you for making this the best chaos we've ever had." I laughed, tears prickling my eyes, and pulled them closer. "No, thank you. For all of it. For being here. For being us." The city outside hummed softly, indifferent yet alive, as we sat there, three hearts and mine, beating together in an imperfect, chaotic, beautiful harmony. And in that moment, I understood the truth. Love, in all its forms, didn't need to be simple. It just needed to be real. And ours was as real as it could ever be. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.